Welcome to a KeySmash Studios tutorial. This is part 2 of our region series. The first part we created our trigger boxes that contained a name so that way we could have unique areas. In this part we'll be creating a user widget in C++, making a blueprint child of that widget, and adding a text box to the center of the screen. We'll then send the name of our region to the widget to display whenever we enter our trigger boxes. There will also be a third part to this where we fade the text in and then back out. As you're watching, if you find this video helpful, please remember to like and subscribe. So we're going to begin by creating that user widget class. We're going to create a C++ class, click show all classes, type in user widget, and then next, and I'm going to name mine region display, and then create class. With the class created, we're going to go over to our region displays header, and we're going to go ahead and add a new including that will allow us to reference text boxes in C++. So this is going to be components / text block .h. And this is just so we can change the text of our text block that will be on our widget. Now we can go down and create a public section, and we're going to make a u function. This is going to be blueprint callable. And this is what we're going to use to set our text. So we're just going to do void set name, and we want to pass an f string called name to this function. And now we can go ahead and do a protected. Inside here, we're going to have another function. This one is going to be a void native construct. And it's going to be an override. This is just the equivalent of a constructor for a user widget class. And now we're going to do a u property. And what you want to do here is set the meta to equal bind widget. And then what this property is going to be is a u text block, and we're going to call it region name. And all this meta bind widget does is say whenever we create a blueprint child, we have to have a text box property of region name inside of our widgets display. So now we can go ahead and save the header and move on to the CPP. And the first thing we want to do in here is our native construct. So we're going to do void u region display native construct. And then you want to do the super of this native construct. And then at this point, the only other thing we're going to be doing inside here is taking our region name text block, setting the text of that, and I'm going to just set it to ftext from string, and I'm just going to give it a string of none. And I'm just defaulting this to none as my player isn't going to be starting off inside a region. And now from here, I'm going to go ahead and create the set name function. So void u region display set name, and then my argument for this was f string name. And then inside here, all I'm going to do is essentially the same thing as above. So region name, set text, f text from string, and then the input for this is going to be name. And this set name function is what we're going to be calling from our trigger region anytime the player enters the region, so that way we can update the name on our GUI. And this is all that we're going to be doing for our region display class. So now we can go ahead and go over to our trigger region header that we created in the previous video. And inside here, the first thing we want to do is add a new include. And this is going to be include blueprint / widget blueprint library .h. And what this is going to allow us to do is get an array of all the blueprints of a specific class, so that way we can say on which widget to change the name. And the only other thing we're going to do inside this header is we're going to create a new property. So u property, And this is going to be a U region display, and we're just going to call it region widget instance. And this will allow us to hold a reference to our widget in the scene, so that way we can call the setName function. But we actually do also need to include our region display. So this again, include, and then this one is the region display.h, so that way it knows what this class is. And now that we've done that, we can go ahead and go over to our CPP, and we're going to add to the inside of our entered region function. So we can leave this for now, and below it, we're just going to add a T array. And we want this array to be of U user widgets. And we're just going to call this found widgets. This is what's going to hold all the returned widgets of type U region display. And so in order to call that function to get all the widgets, we're going to do U widget library. U widget blueprint library, and then it's get all widgets of class. The first thing is the world, so we're just going to do get world, then the array that we're going to be holding all of these widgets in, which again was our found widgets, and then finally the type of widget that we're looking for, which is going to be our U region display, and we want to make this a static class. So again, this function looks inside our current world, finds all of the arrays of this class, and then stores them in this found widgets T array. After we have all of our widgets found, what we're going to want to do is make sure that found widgets is above 0. So found widgets.num is greater than 0. And this just says there's at least one widget of region display currently active on our screen. And so if that's the case, we can go ahead and take our region widget instance and make it equal to the found widget at 0 because we only want the first one. So cast U region display. And the thing we're casting into a U region display is going to be our found widgets, which is a U user widget, which is why we have to do the casting. And then again, we want the first element of that because we should only have one displayed on the screen anyway. And so after we have assigned this instance, we can go ahead and make sure the cast was successful. So if region widget instance, in other words, this isn't null, then we can go ahead and take our region instance and call the setName function that we created in our region display class. And then we're going to pass in the region name of this trigger region class. And we set this region name value inside the editor in the previous video. So now we can go ahead and save. And just to kind of reiterate what this function is doing, whenever the player enters the trigger box, it's going to display the region name as a debug. Then it's going to find all the widgets of type uRegin display. It's going to make sure that one was found. It's going to cast that first one it found to our instance, and then it's going to take that instance and set its current name to the region name of the trigger box that was entered. And that's all of the coding that we're going to be doing for this tutorial. So we can go ahead and go back to the scene and compile. And then once this is completed compiling, we'll go ahead and create a blueprint version of that C++ class. So we're going to go ahead and refresh. We're going to refresh our C++ classes. And now you can see region display is there. So we're going to go over to our content. I'm going to make a blueprint folder. And then inside of this, we're going to create a new blueprint class. And we want this to be of our region display C++ class. So we're going to click on that and click select. And I'm just going to name this blueprint region display. And then we can go ahead and open this up. And we're not going to be doing anything with the graph, just the designer. So we can go ahead and drag in an overlay. And then into that, I'm going to bring in a vertical box. And then finally, I'm going to bring in our text block. And you want to make sure that up here, you name your text block region name, the same way you spelled it inside of the region display C++ class. And then I'm going to stick this in the middle, and then go back to this vertical box and stick it in the middle as well. And that's all we need to do inside our designer. So I'm going to go ahead and compile and save this. And then we're going to go back to our scene and drop down this blueprints and open level blueprint. Inside here, what we want to do is event begin play. And then from that, we want to create a widget. This widget is going to be of our blueprint region display class. Our owning player is going to be our player controller. We want that index to be 0, since this is the only character that we have. And then we're going to add this to the viewport. And the target for this is going to be the return value of the widget we've created. And now we can go ahead and compile and save and go back to the scene. And now we can go ahead and test and play. So as you can see, that none default is there. And if I go to the other one, mountains pops up, and then valley pops up as well. So as a recap, we created a user widget class in C++. We then made a blueprint child class of it, so that way it could send its region name value to the property of the user widget to have it display on the screen. As you can see, the names don't go away after you've entered the region, or even once you've exited the region, they just stay on the screen until you enter a new region. And so in the next video, we'll be adjusting that to where they fade in as you enter and then fade right back out. As always, I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments, or you can join our Discord and ask them there. We make videos here every Wednesday and Saturday, but we also stream games on Twitch Tuesday and Fridays. We have a game on the Google Play Store called Blast Off, and an asset pack of kids' toys on the Unity Store. We also have a Patreon where there's a YouTuber supporter tier that gives you access to all of our C++ code from these tutorials. If any of those things interest you, or you would like to support us in any of those ways, I will link all those things in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.